The Sultan's Trident, Barbarossa and the Habsburg Clash. The year was 1533. The geopolitical chessboard of the world was dominated by one man, Charles V. As the Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain, his domains stretched from the newly discovered Americas across the vast expanse of Europe to the coasts of Italy. Charles V was not merely a greedy king hoarding gold. He was a monarch fighting a multi-front war to maintain a massive, fragile empire. He genuinely believed he was the sword of Western Christendom, duty-bound to launch a holy crusade against the expanding Islamic world and to secure the vital, wealthy maritime trade routes of the Mediterranean. But as the eminent historian John Julius Norwich details in his sweeping history, The Middle Sea, Charles V was colliding with the only power capable of matching his titan status, the Ottoman Empire under Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman knew to break the Habsburg chokehold on the Mediterranean, he needed more than just land armies. He needed a sovereign of the sea. He summoned the Redbeard. Leaving his fortified stronghold of Algiers, Barbarossa Pasha sailed into the Golden Horn of Istanbul. Impressed by his brilliant defense of North Africa, Sultan Suleiman officially appointed Barbarossa as Capudan Pasha, the Grand Admiral of the entire Ottoman imperial navy. Barbarossa immediately revolutionized the Ottoman naval machine. During the winter of 1533, he took absolute control of the imperial yards in Istanbul. Working at an astonishing mechanized pace, his engineers built a massive new fleet of sleek, heavily armed galleys. Barbarossa forged a naval strike force designed for lightning-fast, asymmetric warfare. When the spring sailing season arrived in 1534, Barbarossa took the war directly to the shores of the Habsburg Empire. His strategy was brilliant and deeply psychological. As naval biographer Ernle Bradford explains in The Sultan's Admiral, Barbarossa understood that Charles V's war machine relied heavily on the agricultural output and wealth of his Italian territories. Barbarossa targeted the soft underbelly of the Habsburg Empire, the coasts of Sicily and Naples. Appearing from the sea horizon like a sudden storm, Barbarossa's fleet unleashed a terrifying campaign. He ravaged the coastlines of Campania and Calabria, neutralizing Spanish coastal fortresses, capturing vital supplies, and paralyzing the Habsburg economy in Italy. The Ottoman galleots were so fast that by the time the heavy Spanish imperial fleets arrived to defend their waters, Barbarossa had already vanished. This deeply humiliated Charles V. The emperor realized he had to respond with overwhelming force. In the summer of 1535, Charles V gathered a massive pan-European Christian armada and launched a direct assault on Barbarossa's newly conquered stronghold in Tunis, North Africa. The emperor's forces overwhelmed the city. Charles V celebrated a massive victory, believing he had finally broken the Ottoman naval threat and destroyed the Redbeard once and for all. He was catastrophically wrong. Barbarossa had anticipated the fall of Tunis. He executed a brilliant tactical retreat, escaping the city and sailing to the Port of Mahon, modern Annaba, Algeria, where he had secretly hidden a reserve fleet of galleys. While Charles V was parading through the ruins of Tunis, Barbarossa launched one of the most audacious counterattacks in naval history. He sailed his reserve fleet deep into enemy waters, targeting the Balearic Islands, specifically the strategic port of Mahon on the island of Minorca, located dangerously close to the Spanish mainland. In a legendary act of tactical deception documented in Roger Crowley's Empires of the Sea, Barbarossa approached Mahon flying captured Spanish and Portuguese flags. The fortress commanders, believing this was Charles V's victorious fleet returning from Tunis, threw open the harbor defenses and fired their cannons in a joyful salute. They realized their fatal mistake only when the Ottoman galleys swept into the harbor and unleashed their own broadsides. Barbarossa captured the strategic island, seizing massive caches of Spanish artillery, wealth, and thousands of prisoners before sailing away untouched back to Algiers. For Charles V, this was an absolute, paralyzing humiliation. He had spent a fortune to capture Tunis, only to have his own home island sacked simultaneously. Barbarossa proved that no matter how many fortresses the Habsburgs built or how large their armadas had moved, the Redbeard could strike anywhere at any time. He had taken the naval forces of the Islamic world and forged them into a weapon that forced the greatest empire in Europe to sleep with one eye on the sea.